A lot of people who are thinking of moving to the Dallas, Texas market know about our booming economy, about the schools, about, hey, there's no state taxes here. But if I told you that a lot of real estate agents just simply won't tell you about the downside of why you may not want to move here, you may be surprised. So in this video, I'm going to cover, is Dallas, Texas really as affordable as people think it is? Are there maybe some other things you may want to consider if you're going to be a newcomer here? And after moving here, what are the major challenges that people face that they weren't really aware of before they moved here? And finally, is this really the destination that is going to meet all of your dreams and your vision for lifestyle? So stay tuned. We're going to cover those three topics, but I'm going to give you the details that you're probably not going to hear in a lot of other places, and especially not from real estate agents. First off, let's just be honest. A lot of agents aren't going to tell you about all the nitty-gritty details or the downside, because mainly, sales agents are taught ABC, always be closing, because a lot of agents just think they're in sales. They don't realize this is a service job. So I don't have any homes to sell. My home is not for sale. I am here to help you and to give you the service you want, need, and deserve to make the best decision possible. A lot of other agents may be in that sales mode because, I don't know if you know this or not, but the vast majority of agents are really just poking it with a stick. I call it part-time. They're part-time agents, frankly, making 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 sales. Can you imagine just getting paid every 3 months? So of course, if somebody says, I'm thinking of buying a home, they go into the sales mode. And nothing could be worse for your decision-making process to only focus on the house. Because if you're being in the service mode, I know for a fact that you're really not looking for bedrooms and bathrooms. It's part of the equation, but you've got bedrooms and bathrooms. What you're looking for is a lifestyle and a quality of life, which is going to include the bedrooms and bathrooms, but where that house is, how it's positioned on the lot, what street it's on, what neighborhood, what area, what community, how close is it to the places you need to go to work, to be entertained, to shop, to practice your faith-based activities. It all adds up. Some people are in the sales business, a lot of agents, and they go right to the house. And so that's why it's easy to run across an agent who's focused on the close, not providing you with clarity for your decision-making process. And that's why you see so many videos with agents talking to you about the best, and there's really not the underbelly of what are the other things that may not be the best that you need to consider, but we're doing that here today. A lot of people are just stunned to find out that the fact of the matter is 5 to 7% of the agents will do about 90% of the volume, not just here in Texas, but that's nationwide. So who you pick is very important as an agent, and getting the truth about an area to get the truth and get the insights on an area. A lot of agents simply don't have the experience, and some are just in that close mode, not the clarity mode. So be careful when you're picking the agent, so to speak. So how do you go ahead and pick the right agent? We're going to talk about that later, but before we get there, let's get into the things that most agents just simply won't talk about. Number one, property taxes. Texas does not have a state income tax, it's true, but we do have property taxes, and they can be, in many communities, anywhere between 2.5% to 3% of your home value. So property taxes on a $500,000 house would range anywhere from $11,000, $12,000 up to possibly $15,000. And when that is rolled into your monthly mortgage payment, a $500,000 house in one area could be a comfortable mortgage payment, while a $500,000 house in another area where maybe the tax rate's 1.9, because those are available too, is going to be a whole different thing. And property taxes will change every year. So if you're not aware of the tax rate and how it might creep up or go down and have a significant impact on your financial comfort zone of the mortgage every month as you pay it going forward, it could be quite the surprise for the new Texas homeowner. And that's just one unexpected cost. Let's talk about the weather. Here in Texas, we have some pretty crazy weather, but year-round on average, it's not too bad, but our extremes can be pretty darn extreme. We can have hailstorms that are just incredible. I remember way back in the day, well over a decade ago, I think it was, I was coming back from Fort Worth with an agent. Blue skies, clear, bright, sunny, had the sunglasses on, and as we approached Collin County, we saw this big black curtain, and it was black. And we were like, whoa, and about that time the phone rang, and I was on my way to see a client who we were doing a final inspection on a house they were going to buy the next day, and the seller of the house is crying on the other line, my house is destroyed, don't come, my house is destroyed, don't come to the appointment. Well, when we got there, this community had experienced cannonball-sized hail. It looked like somebody had ripped through the whole neighborhood with a 50 caliber machine gun and mortar fire. It was crazy, and that's an extreme. Pea-sized hail can do just as much damage. It can strip bark off trees and do all kinds of crazy things. But that's why here in Texas, we say wait a couple of minutes and the weather will change. I saw a meme the other day that made me laugh. It was like Texas weather is kind of like playing the Powerball lottery. 5 degrees, 15, 102, 110, 87, 64, and that's all in the same day. But when you're prepared for these weather extremes, you fare a lot better than if you're not prepared. But we do have some weather extremes here that you just gotta be prepared for and know about. Weather isn't the only thing that can throw you a curveball if you're living here in North Texas. Traffic can do just that. Now, I've lived everywhere from and driven traffic from the Beltway in DC to LA and everywhere in between. I've lived a lot of places. And I always say traffic here is not that bad compared to those two places. But if you're coming from somewhere else, it can be pretty bad. Traveling down a couple of different highways, you can get commute times to work from 45 minutes up to an hour. Really depends on where you're going to, how often during the week you have to go there, what time of day you go, what time of day you come back. All adds up to how much time you spend in the car. And so traffic can be an issue, or traffic may not be an issue. You just need to know when you're looking at the areas that might be good for you. And here's the thing. When you're here after a little bit of time, you're going to figure out all the shortcuts on traffic. But here's the other downside. If you take some of the shortcuts, some of the best shortcuts around here are actually toll roads. And so you can have a $200, $300 bill every month just for going to work or wherever you're going, or not, depending on where you're willing to drive or where you're not. But some of the best roads around here, Sam Rayburn Tollway, 121, the Bush, Dallas North Tollway, man, you can get around lickety-split. Not a problem, but it'll hit your pocketbook, right? So again, more considerations. And talking about hitting your pocketbook, we talked about weather here in Texas. Well, you add to that the weather that comes up in Houston. They've suffered major flooding and hurricanes multiple times over the last 8 years. And the insurance industry is just they're not real big on Texas these days. So homeowners insurance has doubled and tripled in some areas. My homeowners insurance literally doubled just in the last 2 years. And so that's another cost of living. When you add that to your property taxes, because when you're paying a mortgage, part of the mortgage is principal and interest, but then you have property taxes and you have homeowners insurance. And if homeowners insurance and taxes can fluctuate every year, it's not unusual. Homeowner insurance and property taxes can make up 35, 40, 45% of your monthly mortgage payment. That's why if you look online to all the Zillows and the realtors and they're saying, oh, here's your mortgage payment, and then you go to find out what it really is and you're mortified and you're surprised because mainly your mortgage payment you thought you were going to have for this beautiful house just doubled. That's why. And that's just a peculiarity to here to Texas. Since we don't have property taxes, doesn't mean you're not going to pay somehow. We do have roads. We have infrastructure you have to pay for. It makes sense. But doing significant preparation when you're looking to go out and begin to look at actual houses is important. So you go out with eyes wide open. A lot of people call me and they say, well, gosh, can I get a lower cost of living doing new construction? Well, yeah, because utility bills are going to be a lot lower, but guess what? Dirt is at a premium around here. So the builders, to find the dirt to actually build the new houses, they have to go farther and farther away from the city center destinations where the big corporations are. So your drive time increases. That's where the taxes may be higher because they're still paying for infrastructure for different things that aren't in place yet. And so there's just trade-offs that you're going to have to make. But again, knowing that and have eyes wide open is good because right now there is kind of a housing shortage. But the good news is because interest rates are high, the builders are incentivizing buyers with incredible discounts. They'll do rate buy downs. They'll go out of their way to make sure you can get in that house. But at the end of the day, what you paid for the house, the price, and we'll talk about this later, the price is important, but it's not crucial. It's what does the monthly mortgage payment end up being? Because there's a lot of ways to stuff people into a house if people are focused on close, right, and not clarity. And so a lot of people, if they're looking for new construction, they'll say, well, why don't we look outside of Collin County? Let's go to Denton County, Dallas County. And here's the thing. You can find bedrooms and bathrooms all over the nation, all over every state, all over Texas, all over the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But the county that you live in can give you a different vibe, a different quality of life and lifestyle. It's just like every house will give you something different. Every neighborhood will give you something different. Every city will give you something different. Every county will give you something different. Collin County is the hub of hubs here in Dallas. It competes with downtown Dallas all the time for fun stuff. If you live in Collin County, there's so many things to do here. 25 years ago, this was steers and horses and goats and cotton and wheat. And now it's just incredible. I call it the orb of fun, because if you live in Collin County, you are no more than 20 minutes away from everything possible that you'd want to do the best of in the United States. You don't see a lot of garbage everywhere because it's new. The homeless population is fairly minimal, and it's just lots of corporations moving here. So it's just a vibrant place. And it's kind of urban, suburban combined. Going out to Denton County or Tarrant County, other counties, you might get more of a suburb, not a lot of urban. And there's not as much fun things to go do close in. They have lots of things to do. It's just a different vibe. So is it worth your time, depending on what your home lifestyle is, to talk about that and work with somebody who really knows the area and can direct you and tell you that place may not bring what you want. Now, here's a story. Just last week, I promise, had a guy come down. He goes, I want to buy a single family home. It needs to be, his budget, I kid you not, was 1.5 to 2.125. I said, okay. So after spending some time with him and looking in three different counties, frankly, I basically said, it seems to me, based on what you're saying, this is what I would recommend. You don't got to spend more than 800 because, and then we laid out the facts, and he just went, wow. Why would you tell me that? And I said, because it's in your best interest, because if your 3-year plan is ABC, buying that now probably is something you need to wait on. And you'll have a good investment in 3 years if we buy right, in the right location. And he agreed. And that's the difference between providing guidance and clarity and chasing the sale, just looking for a close, right? And so he was very appreciative of that. He backed off, but I'm okay. I'm not poking this with a stick. We have lots of clients all the time. That's true how I get paid, but I get paid the best when I give advice and guidance. I don't try. People love to buy. They just don't want to be sold, right? And so that's what we do here. And so looking at this area in general is going to be so important, and telling you what the trade-offs are and working with somebody who's going to say, this is probably not going to deliver what you want, and here's why. Right? Again, sometimes people ask me, Phil, are you trying to talk me out of this? No. I just want to be able to pull up to your house to say hi after you're living in it, and you don't look out the blinds and shut the blinds and turn off the porch light. That's what I don't want. One last thing that people don't talk a lot about is maintenance on your house. There's 2 things you have to do. People are surprised here when they walk in from different areas of the country, and they say, how come your walls aren't smooth? They got an orange peel texture to them. And we say, oh, that hides the cracks. And they're like, what? So yes, the soil, the county to county will be different, city to city will be different, neighborhood to neighborhood will be different, but what's common is the soil that our houses are built on. And from Oklahoma all the way down to Houston through Texas, we have what's called the hottest soil in the nation. We have clay. There's clay all over the United States, but we have a special kind of clay because its ability to absorb water or shed water is biblical, as they say, right? And so, the soil is always expanding and contracting, so your house is kind of like a surfboard, right? Riding the wave, and on it is a house held together with paper and glue and staples, and that movement, as slight as it is, over time will cause the cracks to show up in your house. They're cosmetic. And so about every 3 to 5 years, we here in Texas will address that. We never fix the crack in January because that's when our climate is the driest and the crack gets the widest. And by June, you probably won't see a lot of them anymore because the house swells, it swells again. Everything swells. And so when we water our gardens, when we water our lawn, we also make it a point to water our foundations. And so who you pick as a builder, the reputation for foundation and how the techniques they're putting it together on. Of course, we have code, everybody has standards, but some actually are, I believe, built to a higher standard than others. And that's just a fact. And so, when selecting a house, that's the other thing that a lot of agents can't even talk to because they don't know what PVR is. If you're interested, we can talk. They don't know how to explain it. I've built probably almost 100 houses in the last 5 years. I know what foundations are all about and how they're engineered. And so new construction and foundations are previously owned, what decade the home was built in, has different implications for what that foundation may or may not do, what the plumbing may or may not look like. These things are so critical when you're purchasing a house here in North Texas. So that's all the things that a lot of agents just simply don't know to tell you or simply won't tell you because they're focused as a salesperson on the close, not on a service provider on clarity. So guys, a valid question is, how do you spot a great agent? Right? Well, first let's talk about how to spot one that may not be so great. It's pretty simple. Part-time agents, low volume agents, if you get the feel like there is never anything negative that an agent tells you and they're immediately wanting you to sign the agreement so I can talk to you. That's probably not the best sign, right? If someone's not willing to talk to you and demonstrate their expertise before they ask you to hop in bed and be married, that's probably a red flag. I consider a red flag. And so if someone's not willing to talk to you or even provide you with some level of guidance and expertise before they want you to commit, that's probably a red flag. And so that just leads me to say, well, okay, why would I pick Phil Martin and the Martin Home Team? We have an incredible track record. We have helped an uncountable number of families moving for well over a decade. And the first thing we do is we have an in-depth conversation, because I'm going to show you what it's like working with me and our team before I ask you if you have the basis to do that with the team and I. You're going to get so much value just from the conversation. It could be 30, 45 minutes, depending on the questions you ask. I'm not going to hold anything back. I'm going to tell you what I think. I don't make judgments, but I do make observations, is what I call it. No judgments, just observations. And so if you're concerned about schools, homeschooling, you're concerned about older builds or new construction, if you're concerned about an area, about crime, there's so many different things. The resources are endless to help you out, but I've got a lot of observations after operating here. You know, I've lived in Allen, Texas for going on 17, 18 years, right in the heart of Collin County. So experience matters. I am a true expert at helping people who are relocating from out of town or out of state especially. I've made 19 moves in my life, you know, with parents, but as an adult, I've made 8 moves that involve 5 to 6 houses, buying and selling. I know what it's like, you know, being in the military early on and working, climbing the corporate ladder for a number of decades, being very successful at that. Hopping into real estate, I just noticed, wow, people have a lot of questions. I have a lot of experience, so I can give you my observations, right? You know, if you look at your screening agents and you got somebody who's young and they don't even own a house, or maybe they have just bought their first house, or maybe you look at me and go, man, that guy has gray hair just like me, and it's not because he hasn't have any experience. Gray hair, that's kind of what that means. So if you're more comfortable with somebody who's, you know, there's no pressure here. You know, I absolutely, if I make you feel pressured, you can fire me on the spot. That's part of our guarantees. So working with us comes with promises, with guarantees that we're going to serve you like you want, need, and deserve, because moving a house is incredibly stressful. But now let's try moving houses to a different city. Let's try moving houses to a different state. Let's try moving houses to a different city, different state, and a different job. Oh, the last thing you need is to try to figure out, how am I going to do all this? You don't need to figure out how, you need a good who, and that's who I am. You will speak with me directly. I don't pawn you off to junior agents or anything else. Your initial consultation and guidance throughout the process will be with me and the experience that I bring to the table. Now, will you deal with my team and my team members? Absolutely, because nobody does anything. You know, if solo agents, you know, how are they going to handle volume if they're just a one-off, right? So I have a team, they're experienced and they're phenomenal, but I do not step aside. If you call the number and you talk to me because of what I've said and how you feel about our conversation we're having right now, I'm not going to abandon you. I'm not commanding you off. You'll be my client and I'll be the one that gives you the service you want, need, and deserve. So if you are thinking about moving to North Dallas, give me a call, give me a text, give me an email. Let's set up a Zoom call. That's my favorite, because man, we can pull up the map, we can talk about lifestyle, quality of life, we can talk about all the things that you're concerned about. And if after that conversation and the value that you get from it, if you think that we have a basis to do business together, well, it'll be obvious. We will or we won't. But if this gray hair and well, what I've communicated in this video sounds interesting, let's have that talk. I'm looking forward to talking to you and helping you get the quality of life and lifestyle you are looking for here in North Texas. This is Phil Martin with the Martin Home Team. Take care.